and welcome back to another episode of Night Vibes.
Black Law.
Welcome back to another episode of Black Law and Legal Lies. I'm one of your hosts, Ann. You can follow me on Twitter at I Tell Legal Lies. You can follow the show across all social media platforms at Black Law Podcast. You can also follow me home sometimes.
And I'm Mike Tyson.
Because I be lonely. No. You stupid. You Mike Tyson? Really? You want to be ear biting?
I'm Mike Tyson.
You want to be ear biting Mike Tyson? Man, he go call your name in a minute.
Man, I'll whoop Mike Tyson's ass.
Really? You think so?
Hell yeah.
You think? All right.
I will whoop
Man.
Mike Tyson. I think I could beat Mike Tyson.
Yeah, you think? Yeah, you die.
Man, me and Will Smith would jump his ass.
Oh, Lord.
No, Mike easy to beat now. All you got to do is give him some toad. Because he's strung out on that toad. He'd be like, listen, right? I was going to fight you, but you gave me some of that toad and I died and I love the experience.
You know what? Shut up.
I'm Dan. You keep up with me on Twitter and IG at I am Dan on drugs. So
anyway,
today we're going to be talking about
not
the rich white.
See, no.
Nah,
there you go.
All right, well.
Stop it. It's a serious topic. It ain't about no rich white
Man, the systemic oppression of rich white girls. Psh,
Really?
yeah.
Systemic?
Do you know the life that they have to live?
I mean,
Do you know the stuff they have to carry with them every day?
Yeah, dogs in their pockets, like Paris Hilton.
No, seriously, because my brother Terry Crews,
Xanax.
My brother Terry Crews, the honorable Terry Crews, man. You know this black supremacy is just getting out of hand.
Honorable Terry?
I'm a human rights activist, not a human wrongs activist.
You know what? Now you sound like Kanye West because slavery was a choice.
See, but I get where Kanye is coming from, though, because, you know, you could choose to lose your feet and get hung from a tree, or you could choose to go work in the field. So how is that not a choice?
Yeah, definitely a choice. Anyway.
Candace Owens for president, 2021. Not even 2020, 2021.
Anyway. We are going to be the topic of discussion, or a topic of discussion, because, you know, with us, even though we say what we're going to talk about, it always seems to go left. Sidebars aplenty.
End up on talking about goat rape.
Really? You gonna talk about goat rape?
So
you raping goats?
I'll find a way to slide it in there.
Anyway, so we're going to be talking about heirs property. That is spelled H-to-the-E-I-R-S apostrophe.
So some examples of some heirs would be Paris Hilton.
Yes, she's heir to the Hilton.
The who's the other lady? Whatchamacallit's wife? Schwarzenegger's wife. The Heinz.
Oh, the
Shriver.
The one that Maria Shriver.
Yeah.
She's heir to Kennedy money. Right?
So heirs. Now, do poor people? Now, I'm asking this seriously. Do poor people have heirs?
Yes.
Okay. So
they could. It all depends.
Let's define what an heir is.
All right. So an heir is a descendant of a person that, well, back up just a little bit. So in the state of Louisiana, and we're talking strictly Louisiana, not anywhere else, you can die testate or intestate. Testate means you die with a will. Intestate means that you die without a will. And basically any property that you die with actually is distributed based on the law, not on the way that you would want it to be. In order to get your property distributed the way that you want it, a will would be what you would do. Who an heir is basically someone who has the right to receive property from you by operation of the law.
Which
right?
would be your will.
So no, I said by operation of the law.
Okay.
So when you die without a will, the way your property is divided, as I just said, is through operation of the law. The law is going to tell you who gets what and how much. So, for instance, if Dan had 3 kids and he had $1 million in the bank when he died,
$1 million.
when he died, and he did not have a will, he does not have a wife. What the law says is his 3 kids get a third, and a third, or 33.33,
So usually,
you split it.
In cases like that here, because I'm here to learn today, ladies and gentlemen. In cases like that, like let's say you have, what do we call it? The head of the estate, the
executor or
right?
executrix if it's a woman.
Yeah, the trick. If there's a fee that is involved with that, right? Because I've seen in wills where it's like the executor or the trick won't be paid more than the state. They can get
a percentage. They can get a fee for actually being the executor.
Does that need to be spelled out in the will?
It can be.
And if it is,
if it's not, once again, operation of the law. So like if you say that your executor can get what is legally allowable, then the law is whatever the law is, or whatever the law says that your executor can receive, that's what your executor is going to receive.
So instead you have no executor in this case, if I died, 3 kids, no wife, no will, so there's no additional fees or anything going anywhere else?
There's nobody that would actually handle your estate unless someone went into court and said, I want to be the executor over this estate. Gotcha. They petition the court, and the court allows them to do it. But anyway, so heirs property, as I said, is a construct of the law that basically Reconstruction and Jim Crow era African Americans used to pass property on to their children and grandchildren, X, Y, and Z. Because, back in the day, a lot of Black people did not have access to legal help, 1. They didn't have access to the court, 2. And then if they did have access, they did not trust the court.
Speaking of which, the courts and Jim Crow segregation, I didn't realize how dope Thurgood Marshall was.
What do you mean?
That nigga was dope.
Yes, he was.
But the trust aspect. That's what made me think of him. Jim Crow too, but people looked at Thurgood early on as Al Sharpton as a Jesse, right, an opportunist who went from town to town. Mm-hmm. But he did. If you're not familiar with some of the work he did, I wasn't. I learned in school like who he was when I was in school and who he became. But looking at a lot of the cases that he took on, like some of them, he was the lead counsel, but he could not. He couldn't cross-examine. He couldn't.
He had to have a white person. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, absolutely. Yo, that's crazy. But they didn't trust him early on either. So
as I was saying, most African American people, they didn't trust the system. And why would you? That's true today.
We still don't. Yeah.
Right. That's true today. So what basically they would do, if they had land in the family, they wouldn't leave a will. They would just let the law decide how the land was thinking, assuming that the land would stay in the family. And pretty much that is the correct assumption. The problem is that with heirs property, because it can get very convoluted very quickly, there's no clear title to the land. So once again, a way that people get gotten over on, and we experienced something like that during Katrina. Katrina happened, and FEMA,
when they took the people's houses.
Well, FEMA was paying money to help you fix your house. Well, if it was a family house, that's what in Louisiana, In other places in the South, you have a family house. Well, no one person owns it, right? Because when daddy died or when granddaddy died, he didn't have a will. So the house passed on to his kids. And then when one of his kids died, their interest passed on to their kids, right? So nobody has clear title. And what we saw during Katrina, in order to get FEMA help and to get SBA help and to get any other kind of help, you had to have an owner. You had to have clear title. Most people didn't because they were living in family homes. So these houses just sat there.
And they technically didn't belong to anybody.
Well, they belonged to too many people.
Right.
You know,
well,
they could have belonged.
Person,
right.
yeah.
They could have belonged to 20 people. But how do you get those 20 people together in one room to sign paperwork? Couldn't do it. So, like I said, a lot of these houses wind up going to the state. You know, the state bought them because they couldn't get fixed. So they got torn down. The land
I know
got bought back.
Somebody that bought some of these houses, and I can tell you this was not that long ago. This was maybe 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I know a guy who was going around. So the city had a list of blighted properties that basically got taken from the owners because they either didn't fix them or
they didn't pay the taxes on them. That's
So he got early access to this list, which shouldn't have happened, but this is Louisiana. And he was able to go through the list and find all these properties in the lower 9th ward, which not at the time, but pre-Katrina, you don't want nothing in the lower 9th. At post-Katrina,
shit, you do now.
Yeah, so he was buying these homes just for the land, $3,000 here, $5,000 here, $7,000 here, and the land alone is worth probably now $200,000 easy.
Yep,
and that was predominantly black area.
Not anymore.
Nah.
But see, once again, heirs property. That's why we're talking about this. And I've said it before. I stress, even if you don't think that you have anything to put in a will, have one. Get one, because you may have more than you think. And this, like I said, so granddaddy has a piece of land, or he has a tract of land, right? Granddaddy doesn't have a will, but granddaddy has 12 kids. Granddaddy dies. 12 kids inherit this land. So
they each own what? Like
what, 12?
5% something.
What 12
8%?
kids? A 12th.
Yeah.
So what 12 kids do is, okay, we don't open succession. We don't do anything. What legally, what we decide to do, we look at the land and we say, Bobby, you go take this piece. Billy, you go take this piece. Nikki, you go take this piece. So we parcel it out ourselves. And people build houses on it and X, Y, and Z. And it's ours because it was granddaddy's, right? It was our daddy's. So then 6 of the 12 have kids, right? 2 and 3 kids.
Okay, so
right,
now
so that's
we're
18.
at about 18 kids.
All right, 18. So then they die. Right?
The 18 kids die?
No.
About to say,
6.
damn, that's some bad luck.
No, the 6.
Okay.
The 6 originals. 6 of the 12 originals die.
So now their 18 kids,
they get their
part.
portion. So now we have a 12th that's being split by 3 kids apiece, right? So you can see where this gets convoluted. So now these 18 kids have kids.
Plus the 6 originals. So
Correct.
That's 24 people. Now the 18 kids have kids. 4 of the 18 kids die, but there's 6 more kids. So that's 30 people now that are entitled to this land.
All right.
Yes.
So I have an 8th. You have a 10th. This one has a 12, so now here comes big business because on this land, there's something on this land that people want.
Oh, they're trying to build the interstate.
Right.
Mhm.
So nobody paid the taxes because who do we send the tax bill to? Granddaddy dead.
Yo, speaking of that too, my family lost a lot of shit, but my family lost a plot of land on Lake Caroline. It was on the lake, right?
Mhm.
So my grandfather, this dude, he was before his time. He owned property in North Carolina, Virginia, like
Mhm.
multiple plots, multiple homes. And so he had this plot on Lake Caroline in Virginia. And eventually they were going to build something there and move down there, retire. Well, he passed. So
Didn't have a will.
I'm not entirely sure, but my grandmother got and the property belonged to my grandmother after that.
Wait, he had kids, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
So what happened was my grandmother entrusted.
Wait, time out. Did he buy the land before they got married
No,
or after?
after. So my grandmother entrusted one of the kids
Mm-hmm.
to maintain the property, maintain the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
The other kids were sending him money
For the tax.
for the taxes because they were treating this as if it were equally on. Let's say there's 4 of them, so each of them were sending 25% of
the
whatever the
taxes.
tax.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't paying the taxes. He was keeping their money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, by not paying the taxes, you're not going to lose the property overnight.
Oh no.
This went on for years and
Correct.
years. So
And then there's a tax sale.
finally, one of my grandparents' children decides,
Go look.
let me buy your interests in this land so I can go down there and build.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going to sell it for X, Y, and Z. Set up the sale. The tax bill was like $20,000-$30,000. It was something ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone was like, yo,
Why?
how the fuck, what's going on? Wasn't you supposed to be paying it? Nah, I thought y'all was supposed to be doing it. Nigga, we were sending you the money to do it.
Right.
I ain't know that's what that was for. And So, long story less long, they, shortly after that, they did lose the land.
Right. Tax sale. And just like, and this, once again, a point that I was trying to make, that I was going to make. This is how this land gets out of the hands of Black families. Somebody comes in, they buy it at a tax sale. Or in one case, there was this case in South Carolina that
That might have been the damn case, my grandfather case. Shit.
I read about it. What happens is, once again, you find someone, one of the heirs, who's willing to sell their interest. And so you start buying up pieces of it, right? And then once you have enough pieces, you ask the court to partition the property. You go in and you do.
That's been done in my family too.
Correct.
Believe it or not.
And this everything that I'm saying, this is how systematically 90% of Black farmers in the South lost their land because of stuff like this. Because, once again, no wills, nobody knows who owns it, taxes, nobody pays it, they get sold, or somebody finds out, somebody's looking into your family tree, seeing your cousin who owns an 18th of the land, and this one over here who owns a third, and this one. So they buy it up. And as I said, they petition the court to partition it. And when the court partitions it, that means that it's a partition sale. So I need to sell this land. I want you to give me what my land is worth. And if you can't do that, then the court sells it all. You can't buy it because you don't have any money. Somebody else comes and buys it. They get clear title. Bam. So now your family, some land that's been in your family for 200 years is now no longer in your family. Somebody bought it. So as I said, this is how between tax sales, partitions, and other legal machinations, 90% of Black farmers in the South lost land that they had since Reconstruction. So let me go back a little bit.
Hold on. Let me add to that too, because that similar situation, grandfather owned property in one of the Carolinas. I think it was North Carolina. Same thing. One section was built on.
Mm-hmm.
One part was just land. And again, he was always looking more or less, at least the way I understand it, looking long term, which is we can build on this empty land. So the land wasn't really worth shit. But you throw a house on that bitch and wait another 20, 30, 40 years,
It'll
it's
be
going to be
worth
worth something.
Mm-hmm.
So somehow, if I'm not mistaken, don't kill me if I'm wrong, family who listens, is there was a push to buy that land. A portion of the land was bought, and the land was actually cut in half to where new owners own the part that wasn't built on. Old owners, which would be the family, still owns this small portion that has a house on it. And by taking this land, you totally devalued this side of it. So it was something like that. But what's crazy about that whole thing, speaking of farmers and speaking of the South, right? Did you know that in the South, on farms, there's a lot of goat rape going on? Told you I was going to find a way to get that in there. Naturally, too.
Mess. So, having said that, statistically, I'm going to throw this out there. About 76% of Black people do not have wills. 76%.
I'd believe it to be more.
It's probably more, but this is the statistic that I found. But 76%. And even if it's 76%, that's a whole hell of a lot.
That's majority.
And right. And as I said, this is how 90% of Black farmers lost their land. Also, something else that I found out. So, you know our 40 acres and a mule?
Mm-hmm.
You know how that came about?
Yes.
Tell me.
Okay. So
it had nothing to do with goat rape. Let me tell you. It has absolutely nothing to do with goat rape.
Well, it starts with mules and then just devolve. No, okay, on the spot here, I'm just about to words. Here we go.
Tell me.
So, Black people were promised that if they fought in the Civil War, that they would receive 40 acres and a mule as a contribution to their service. It was signed into effect by Abraham Lincoln, and he got murdered.
Just words. Just words.
Just words,
just
huh?
Words.
And so, wait, hold on. He got murdered.
Okay.
And so after he got murdered, whoever took his place, his successor, John Adams III, basically overturned it and said, y'all niggas ain't getting shit. Fuck you on.
All right. So this is what happened. Shirley.
That's close enough, though.
It was close. So after the Civil War, you know that we went through this period of Reconstruction, but prior to that, free men of color, all we knew how to do for the most part was farm, right? Because that's what we had done. So
wait, you mean collectively, like as a whole? Because at the same time we invented the cotton gin, the traffic light.
I know we were doing that, but
telephone.
I'm talking about immediately after the Civil War. You had a bunch of people who knew how to farm.
Right.
So, you know, General Sherman?
Yeah.
Leader of the Union Army?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
he was a dick, but
But Sherman got together with a group of black ministers, Southern black ministers, and
The bane of our existence.
we're basically like, what can we do for you all to be self-sufficient? So what the minister said was, we need land.
True.
So what Sherman said was, okay, signed a special order, right? Special field order declaring 400,000 acres of Confederate land be given to African Americans.
That would have been so fucking dope. And let me tell you why. Because right now, I'd be flying a Confederate flag on my 40 acres of Confederate land.
And so that's where this whole 40 acres. And then, so that was in 1865.
So
right?
Didn't somebody get killed and then they overturned it?
Well, nah. The 1865, Sherman signed that order. In 1866, Congress signed something called the Southern Homestead Act.
Mm-hmm.
Went into effect, and that granted freed people of color and people who fought for the Union, 46 million acres of public land. So, like, they gave it. It was all signed, sealed, and delivered, but was never realized.
Right.
Like, it never happened. So that's where sharecropping came in. But because, black people couldn't get loans at banks to buy land and things of that nature. But fast forward, here comes the 1900s.
Let me pause real quick, hit the pause button and say, do you think if we actually got that land and were able to hold on to it, because Lord knows that would have been a whole nother fight.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think these people will still proudly be flying their Confederate flags, knowing that black people own the Confederate land? Because I'd fly the flag myself. I'll be like, let's raise this bitch because this heritage got my family straight.
But the thing is, what I think is exactly what's happened or what happened would have happened. Like the same way that black people were stripped of property. Because, that is a majority of the reason why black men were lynched in the South. It wasn't necessarily because, right. It wasn't because, oh, you disrespected a white woman or you disrespected this and that. It was because they had prosperous farms and these white people wanted their land. So what better way to get your land? I'm not going to buy it from you. I'm going to kill you and I'm going to take it.
Well, I think that's part of it. And the other part is they were just some sadistic, sick motherfuckers as well.
Right. But once again, it was land grab.
Speaking of hanging too, I want to say this publicly.
Oh, you talking about that guy in California that they said actually?
No.
Oh, okay.
But, well, maybe if I ever die and y'all find me hanging anywhere,
it wasn't, you did not commit suicide?
And I've thought about suicide. I ain't even gonna sit here and lie and say that I haven't. And I'm sure most people have at some point. Hanging was never an option. So if y'all find me hanging from a goddamn tree, it was not a suicide. If y'all find me with carbon monoxide poisoning, maybe.
Yeah, but I was saying that's the guy in California.
That they said hung himself.
They said that after the investigation, it was suicide.
There's been a rash of them. There's been like 5 or 6 of them over the past couple weeks.
I don't know. I mean, that's the craziest way for any black person to kill themselves.
Yeah, hanging from. Well, that's crazy for anybody, period.
No, black people especially.
Yeah.
Given our history. But so that's where that 40 acres and a mule comes from. And once again, even had we gotten that, these are the legal ways that this land is being stripped. Now, there are still Hilton Head, South Carolina, was air property. Okay. Now Yes.
I've been there. I've been there multiple times. They have lovely beaches.
Exactly. Because the thing is, if you go and you look, most of that land was owned by black people. Because what black folk did was they bought land close to the water because most people, it was too messed up. It was marshland. It was land that nobody thought you could farm. So they went and they got this land that nobody else wanted, and then they made it work. And then, people looked and went, oh, shit.
Much like everything else we do.
Exactly.
And gentrify this shit.
Once
That's
again,
probably why niggas can't swim no more. We're not close enough to the water.
But as I said, because these people did not have wills and they did not fix it, there are ways, especially, I want y'all to go and look up Heirs property and the REELS brothers. These brothers, Melvin Reels and LaCurtis Reels.
Wait, hold on. Before you go any further, I know these names. Did they Texas?
No, South Carolina.
Keep going.
They spent 8 years in jail over something like this. So basically what happened was their grandfather bought 65 acres of land, and it was by the coast. And when the grandfather passed away, did not have a will, because of course grandpa didn't trust the white courts. Property went to his children. Okay. Well, children built on the land. Like, they built houses, they built a juke joint, they built things, they did things on the land. Problem was, once again, we started talking about how it can grow exponentially, how everybody can own these pieces of land. Well, one of these cousins who owned a portion of the land went into court and got title to a part of it. And how he did it was, he said, you ever hear about a theory of the law called adverse possession?
I've heard it, but can't tell you what it is.
So this is what adverse possession is. If it's something like squatters' rights. So the theory is, if you go onto a piece of property and you build on it, you make it better, and you do that for a specific period of time,
it's yours.
And the original owners never come, take you off, do whatever, you can own it. You can go and get clear title to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he said that he had built 2 houses, and he had rented these 2 houses to different people. And because over the years he had put this piece of land in commerce, and he had it was all kinds of legal machinations, but he got the court to grant him title to a specific piece of the land. He in turn sold it to some developers. Well, these 2 brothers had built things on this tract of land as well. Court told them that they couldn't. They were trespassing every time one of them had a house that he had built. The other one had a nightclub that he had built.
Mm-hmm.
So told them that they could not be on this land. And they were told them to take their property down, bulldoze the house,
This is the land that they sold.
This is the land that the cousin sold.
Okay.
This is the land that the cousin got title to and sold.
Gotcha.
And nobody knew. And in South Carolina, you have a year to go into court and to get something like that adverse possession, to get it overturned.
So his cousin basically got him locked up.
The cousin screwed everybody because
Never trust your cousins, people.
Right. Cousin sold it. They didn't know when by the time they find out that cousin still sold it, the court was like, y'all are too late to actually get this overturned. So they kept fighting it, got lawyers trying to fight it, went to court. They thought that they were going to court to argue their case. Well, they got into court and the judge found them in civil contempt because they did not take their property off this land that they no longer owned. Put them in jail. Now, civil contempt in South Carolina was basically used to put in jail people who didn't pay child support. And it's you're only supposed to be in jail for a specific amount of time. Well, judge said because these people refused to do what he told them to do, there was no time limit. These people spent 8 years in jail because they refused to leave land that they believed that they owned.
So it was rightfully theirs, but not lawfully theirs.
Right. Pretty much. And that's the problem when we don't get our business in order. So what the moral of this story is, wills, y'all. And then
and goats.
If you are living in a family house,
get that shit in your name.
Exactly right. There are ways that you can overcome this. There are some states who actually have this law that they have put on the books that help heirs to actually get clear title. Louisiana is not one of those states. It's a federal law that a lot of states signed on to.
Isn't there a mechanism to where if, let's say again, 12 people, you send out 11, whatever, look, I want this land. Mm-hmm. If they don't respond, that you can basically take their no response as, yo, I'm taking this shit then.
Almost, but not quite. Land is tricky, which is why, you find the loopholes and then you exploit them, which is what they did to these black people and they are still doing. So what happens is that's that whole adverse possession thing, right? So there are steps that you have to go through in order to get it. But that's what that sounds like to me. But like I said, if you are living or if you have family property, there are ways to get clear title, like buying other people's interests. Looking at your family tree, finding out who actually may have a piece of this thing, and then getting like deeds or getting people to donate their interests to one person.
Yo, just thought of this. What if there's a bastard child somewhere?
If it's children, they own a piece of it.
So 20 years later, this bastard child can come out of nowhere and be like,
correct.
Yo.
Because I'm a child too. See, that's the thing. I don't have a will. Now, most people that actually do have wills, in their will, they list their children. And they say, these are my children. I have no other children, adopted or otherwise. So anything they have, and they say children, is going to be pertaining to those children. Now, somebody come out the woodwork, I feel sorry for you.
So let me ask you this question, right? Because this takes my brain elsewhere. Out of all the black people that you know,
how many got bastard children?
No, that's all of them. But how many of them are homeowners versus renters, let's say percentage wise, if you had to guess?
Out of the black people I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so gonna say about 80% of them
Are
homeowners.
homeowners.
Correct.
Okay. I look at the people that I know, I'd say 10-15% of them are homeowners.
Right. Well, see, my
And it
family.
might be a generational thing as well, because your people's is like old moonshine
Nah,
and
it's
living
not
on
the
the
moon. It's not
woods
the.
and the
It's not.
farm.
It's not the moonshine side. It's the other side.
Hmm.
They own everything. They got houses and land and everything. So, yeah.
Most of the people I know are renters, and partially because of where I'm from, DC, which got gentrified, and we never stood a chance as far as being able to buy property.
Correct.
But what's crazy is the reason I think about that is we don't teach our children, our neighbors, our brothers, our sisters, like some of the same things, like with the will. Like, yo, you need a will. Even if you ain't got shit, you need a will. That's not passed down to us. There's a
Right.
lot of things that don't get passed down. Like we always talk financial literacy. Doesn't get passed down
Correct.
because grandma don't know no better.
And it's because we think we don't have anything. But see, that's why I'm bringing this to light, because you might not think you own anything, but you might. That's the thing. And if somewhere somebody has to stop and say, we're going to do things the right way.
Right. And that's what we need to start doing, and start with yourself. Get your ass well. It took me like 2.5 years to get one, but I finally got a will. And in doing so, I'm a reader, believe it or not. I'm an avid reader when it comes to paperwork and documentation. I don't read books. But there was a lot of interesting things in there. So you can make it really simple, right? When you die, you're not going to know how much money you have in the bank, because you might have $200 today. When you die, you might have 200,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can just straight up percentage. Like, yo, this person gets this percent, this person gets that percent. It keeps it really easy, really simple, and you don't really have to keep track of it.
And so something else to put out there, you don't really need a lawyer. Most states have something called an holographic will that allows you.
Is that where you talk?
You write it in your own handwriting. You know, there are certain things, like in the state of Louisiana, there's a certain procedure. Like, it has to be in your handwriting. It has to be dated. It has to be signed on the bottom of every page. And then at the end, you know, you have to say that this is my last will and testament, da 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 da. But every state has some form of handwritten will that they recognize. So like I said, if you sat down and you wrote that, you know, this is your last will and testament, and you want X, Y, and Z to have X, Y, and Z, you find out exactly what you have to do to make it legal. As I said, in Louisiana, it has to be dated and it has to be signed on every page and on the last page. That's
then why it take me 2 years to get one when I could have just did that?
I kept telling you that.
You ain't told me shit.
Yeah, I did. Anyway,
let me
what?
Real quick, I'm gonna give you a quick test here, and then I'm gonna tell you why. I want you to translate, and this does have, believe it or not, a legal situation behind it.
All right, you want me to translate? All right,
yes,
translate.
So translate this. I want you to translate it into standard American English. Okay.
Okay.
He a delivery man. He a delivery man.
He's a delivery man.
Okay. Nobody never say nothing.
Nobody told me that.
Don't nobody never say nothing to them.
We don't talk to these people.
His baby mama brother friend was there.
So, wait, that was simple. His baby mama brother friend.
Right? But standard English.
So, baby mama brother. So, his girlfriend's brother's friend was at the party.
He don't be in this neighborhood.
So, he doesn't come around here.
I been went there.
I was at this place several days or weeks or months ago.
We had went to the store, then I got a text.
Me and her or him went shopping, and then somebody texted me and we left.
I was wondering, did his white friend call?
Damn. I don't think I ever heard of that one. I was wondering if his white friend called. Oh, so he left us. He left us because he got a text or a phone call from the white person. Wait. I never heard that one. What? I was wondering if his white friend called.
Yeah. The standard American translation is, I was wondering whether his white friend called. Simple. Okay. You're getting too complex.
Okay.
2 more. I ain't even be feeling that.
Man, that's dumb. That's what I'm saying. That's my translation. If you are not feeling it, it's something that's dumb. So basically, I don't want to do this.
I don't care.
Or that's dumb.
She talking about he don't live here no more.
We know that boy stays there. Or, man, she lying. He does stay in that house.
She is saying that he doesn't live here anymore. So there was this study, right? Mm-hmm. On it happened in Philly and now starting to happen in other places where court stenographers did not understand African American
speech. Yeah. Ebonics.
So what they were doing is they were taking
So they were transcribing it the way that they thought, or into what they thought the people were saying.
Yes. And so here's just read a quick piece of the article. There are times in court where, Jesus Christ, it's going to give me something I can't say now. There are times in court where Kwai Abdul Rahman, a city center-based defense attorney, gets the sense that folks listening didn't understand a piece of testimony. You get it all the time, truthfully, Abdul said. He's been concerned that the meaning of statements like, I don't fool with them, glide past the ears of listeners who aren't black. The unaware might think the speaker has a problem with someone, but saying this doesn't necessarily imply hard feelings.
No, it just says that you don't hang around with them.
It means you're not in the speaker's circle.
Right, you're not in constant contact.
Along with lapses in comprehension, Abdul has also observed persisting biases around how African Americans speak. Mm-hmm. The system keeps perpetuating the same faulty norms about us. New research confirms this hunch for a forthcoming study in the journal language. Researchers evaluated how well Philadelphia court reporters transcribe dialect. The team, which included a University of Pennsylvania linguist, a New York University sociologist, and co-founder of Philadelphia Lawyers for Social Equity, tested 27 court reporters for both accuracy and comprehension. Roughly 40% of the sentences the court reporters transcribed had something wrong. 67% of attempts at paraphrasing were not accurate, and 11% of transcriptions were called just straight gibberish. In Pennsylvania, court reporters must reach a 95% accuracy level to be certified. Legal experts say the findings have disturbing implications as they raise questions about the accuracy of the court records and on fairness overall with the justice system.
Mm-hmm.
The separate question this poses is, are the judges and jurors and the lawyers misapprehending what people are saying? Temple Law Professor Jules Epstein, that name sounds familiar, is it's really important that people have meaningful access to the courts, and meaningful access means that we can be understood. So anyway, it goes on and on. But what was happening is stenographers were like you said, 11%.
They were basically
gibberish.
putting their own what they perceive those statements to mean in the court record.
That or gibberish. Like some of them literally were just like letters smashed together because they're phonetically spelling out.
Right. They didn't understand.
They interviewed the head of the like stenographers union or association or whatever, and they actually got someone, this was on Vice, to come sit in on a black meeting and basically do his stenography shit.
Mm.
So afterwards, there were some discrepancies, some things that weren't right.
Of course.
And he straight up asked the dude, was like, yo, do you think this is acceptable? So the dude was like, yeah. So he's like, why do you think blah, blah, blah? It's like, what does this mean to you? Dude was like, it doesn't matter what it means to me. My only job is to document, not translate, not know what.
Yeah, but how can you accurately document something if you don't
know what
understand what they're saying?
So basically, he's pointing back at the courts. It was like, yo, it's the courts. That's their job to comprehend into whatever. We just literally write down words that you say.
That's the problem. You are not writing down what I'm saying.
So, and they brought up another like lawyer dog. They brought up that shit. How again we speak differently, and in a courtroom, that is detrimental because either they're dicks. Because come on, I want a lawyer dog. Everybody knows goddamn good and well what he was saying.
Well, see, that's the problem. And that's exactly the point that they're making. Everybody doesn't know. You know, I want a lawyer dog. Oh, you looking for a lawyer dog?
Right.
See, we know what he was saying. And they probably did too, but plausible deniability.
I guess. So that's just something I thought of too, talking about black people, court, and whatever.
Right. And this is why, another reason why black people don't trust the system. You know, you think about it. I was, there's this CNN, what's the dude name? Kamal Bell.
Oh, the black dude with the afro?
Yeah, United States of...
I don't know his show. I know you're talking
it's like
about.
United, whatever, right?
Dark skinned dude, yeah.
Yeah, and so they were running this promo for his show, and one of the guys that he was interviewing said something, and I was like, yeah, man. He said, you know, the system is rigged against us, and it's not broken. And I was like, bro, you 100% correct.
It's working exactly how it's supposed to work.
Exactly as it is structured to work. And that is just one more thing in a long line of things that make, or one of the reasons why black people are mistrustful or distrustful of the court system. Because if you don't take the time to want to understand what I am saying, because that's basically what you did. You didn't want to understand what I said. No. Like he said, that's not my job. My job is not to understand. My job is to document. But you can't document if you don't understand.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And I always say, I tell this to everybody, ask questions whenever you don't understand something.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we were talking about, I don't know if I talked about this here, but when we were talking about the work they were doing to the pool, and Becky was calling me, was like, "Yo, they're doing this," and I'm like, "What does
Ask
that
them.
mean?"
Right. Yeah.
And she was like, "I don't know." I'm like, "Well, ask them."
them. Right.
So always ask for clarification, but no, we're not giving that courtesy, and you have to call it a courtesy in most cases with us.
Mm-hmm.
And no, we are very distrustful of the system, and even today in 2020, while Breonna Taylor's
Still distrustful. Still out there.
still
One of
walking
them.
free,
Wait, did one of them not
he got fired.
go to another police department?
I'm not sure. I know he got fired because for reckless abandonment of human life or something like
Right.
that.
Two of them no longer are. They're on administrative duty.
With
They're
pay.
still
Yep.
working right with pay. One of them got fired, but I think the one that got fired, he got fired and he moved and probably is about to
Be a cop somewhere else.
somewhere else. Right.
Yeah, so that is exactly why we don't trust them. And then to add more onto the distrust is we have all these beautiful murals, the Black Lives Matter in the streets,
Mm-hmm.
and
the white people talking about
oh yeah, doing that.
Black lives
And who
don't matter.
Who cares about them painting over it? Because having in big yellow letters "Black Lives Matter," it doesn't fix the problem. It doesn't even begin to address the problem. It doesn't help address the problem. It's just symbolic. That's all it is.
No, I think it does, because the very fact that you have these mayors in cities saying, put it out there so people can see it. It does help, because it helps with the dialogue. You know, the thing is, see, here's the problem. We know that the system can't be fixed in years. You know, it can't be fixed in a matter of days, weeks, or months. It is going to take years, maybe 20 years to fix the system, because you have to
with legislation. Start with legislation. Let's not start with painting pictures. So if you were in an abusive, domestic abusive relationship, right, where you get beat on all the time, right, and you keep calling the cops aren't doing anything, you keep trying to leave, you can't leave, he keeps finding you, and then one day I say, as a mayor or as a police officer, even, you call the police, he's beating on me again, I show up and hand you a pretty picture of a flower and says, "Here." And that's essentially
now,
what they're doing.
If the pretty picture of the flower is a card that actually has the number 2, that actually
it's just a picture of a flower.
The number 2, someplace that you can get help.
It's just a picture of a flower saying, "Here, this should help." It's like that's all that shit. All these murals and shit.
No, what it's
start
doing
with
is
fucking legislation.
It's keeping it in the face of the people that need to continue to remember. Because see, that's the problem. We have these movements and then they peter out. Like they go strong and then they fade. So this keeps this movement on the forefront. It keeps it there. So you turn left, you turn right, you see this. But you're right, legislation. The problem is people have to have the courage of their convictions. The system is broken. We know it is, as far as we're concerned. You know, as they said on the program, the system is not broken. It is designed to keep us in a certain corner, and it's working very well.
See, fuck all these murals. Fuck all this shit. And then another thing, talking about the movements losing their steam. This movement in particular has not lost any of its steam. It's still going on. There's still people out here protesting daily.
Right.
There's
and
still
that's
people
because
calling
they don't
for
have
change.
Anywhere else. You know, like I
But
told
there's
somebody.
no media coverage anymore. It's not like for a good 2 weeks after George Floyd was murdered.
Every day.
Every single day we saw what was going on. We saw the protests in the streets. And then all of a sudden, you know what? That's old news. It's more of the same. Let's move on to other things. But these protests are still happening. People are still in the streets. People are still calling for change. You're not hearing it anymore on TV.
But the movement is still going on. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Most of the times, the movement, it goes a certain length, and then people have to go back to work. You know, when I say this happened and it was a perfect storm, people can stay and continue to protest because they don't have jobs to go to. They have the time, and they're redeeming the time wisely. They're using their time to continue the fight. So, yeah,
Malcolm,
it's not getting as much airtime as it was, but the movement is still going forward.
Malcolm had a dope quote. I was just trying to find it, where basically he's saying your oppressors, rather than giving you equality, what they'll give you is symbolic gestures and tell you that's good enough. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, today's lesson, we learned heirs are not just rich white women. Have a will, and we stressed that in many episodes before. Have a will.
Do the right thing. Legitimize your businesses. Basically work the system. And I understand that we've said that the system is rigged against us, but you can work within the system. Do the right thing. Legitimize yourself. Legitimize your estate. You have to start somewhere.
Teach your children early on
fiscal responsibility
and why things like having a will
matters.
Important. I mean, even if part of the problem that we have in our community, at least that I've experienced, is once you know something, right, you might have learned the hard way. You keep it to yourself.
Right. You don't pass it on.
You don't share that shit. So,
but that's because that's going back to something I've said on this show before.
Slavery, basically.
It's the crab mentality. Yeah. It's basically, if you're getting out the barrel,
I'm in the house, fuck you feel, niggas.
Right. Like, I don't want, if you are on the same level as I am, I want you to stay on the same level as I am. I don't want you to have any more than I have. You can have less, but you can have more.
Right.
So I can't give you the heads up, because I might give you the heads up and you might get ahead of me. Mm-hmm. And that's an issue.
Or you might tell somebody that tell, but that's what we need. We need to share information. We need to share valuable information, knowledge. Knowledge is fucking free. I don't care what anybody says. Like, and one day we'll have to do an episode on.
And that's why we be dropping knowledge. So
I'm always third eye. My third eye's underneath this hat right here.
Geez.
But how I feel about secondary education, schools basically just being big businesses. We'll do that in the future.
Everything is big business. Yeah. Everything.
But do you know what endowments are?
Yes.
That is a crock of shit.
Yes, I do know what
tuitions are still skyrocketing.
Correct.
The quality of education is plummeting. And then you have these endowments that 40, 50, 60 million, billion dollars sitting in these endowments, but you can't lower tuition because that endowment shit, that's really not for school.
That's correct. That's to keep the school operational. What's wrong with you?
Man, all of that shit is invested in the stock market.
Yes, it is.
And man, you know what? We're going to do an episode about that. But I've always believed, I'm a firm believer that knowledge should be free. And most knowledge is. You just have to know where to go get it, which kind of like I saw someone said this, where a kid asked, what does this word mean and how do I spell it? And someone said, look in the dictionary.
How am I looking at a dictionary?
If I don't know how to spell it.
Right.
So knowledge is free. You just got to know where to look, and sometimes you have to ask some questions. So keep passing what you know on to other people. Like I can tell you right now, I'm going to just drop a little bit of knowledge right here. If your alternator ever dies and you buy one from Advanced Auto Parts that says remanufactured, That shit gonna be broke when you get it home and put the bitch in. Anyway, it's been another episode of Black Law and Legal Lies, where I specialize in advocating for.
No, that's what you specialize in.
No, that's that Southern farmer goat rape. But I specialize in advocating for all people of color in all walks of life. And trust me, if you believe you can achieve, you want to know what's crazy?
All right, brother Betty Shabazz.
They told the young brother in the barbershop, little kid named Xavier, had to be about 6-7 years old. So Stephon Marbury, they were doing a documentary about him. He came back from China. He's in the barbershop, and the little boy was like, he was asking the little boy, like, yo, you doing good in school? Da, 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 da. What you want to be when you grow up? So the dude says, the little kid says, I want to be in the NBA. So Steph says, how you going to get there? I don't know, catch a train or a bus. So he's like, where are you going to catch a bus or a train to? The NBA. And the little dude was serious. So he's like, okay, so you want to be a basketball player, professional basketball player? Yeah. Why professional basketball? Do you know you don't have to be an athlete? Do you know you can be the president of the United States of America?
Can be.
So as he said, do you know you could be the president of the United States of America? You could see the boy, young black boy, looking at him like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I can be the president?
So Stephon says, no one's ever told you that. So no. And for a split second, I'm like, damn. No one really ever does tell us that shit.
Yeah, think about that. Because who told you could be president?
My grandma did.
When was that?
Probably when I was like 9-10 years old.
Well, that's good. Because let me tell you, nobody ever told me I could be anything.
Oh, want me to tell you what I told my grandma in response? I don't want to be a president. I want to be the guy that walks around the city with the blower on his back. That goes, because I thought that was the coolest shit ever when I was a kid.
You wanted to be a lawn man.
Yes.
Nah, but honestly, you say that. No, I can't remember one time in my life anybody ever telling me you can be X, Y, and Z. But I can remember from a very young age, 6 or 7 years old, telling anybody who would listen to me that I was going to be a lawyer. Like, anytime somebody asked me what I wanted to be, I want to be a lawyer. And I told them, like, I'm going to be a lawyer someday. And they encouraged me, but I never had anybody say to me, you know, you can be whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Never said it.
That's quite common.
So
I was told that I was gonna be dead or in jail.
I was about to say, I was told by several nuns that I was gonna be delinquent.
Well, you probably were.
You know, I was told by several nuns that I was going to be a delinquent.
I was told I was never gonna be shit, which is, I mean, you know, kind of true. But yeah, never got any positive encouragement outside of my grandmother. So anyway, another episode, Black Law and Legal Lies. Positive brother here, again, advocating for all people of color everywhere, every age. You know, we have to come together as a community. We have to rise up against our oppressors, because I like to look at people and I look at my people and say, you're not my oppressor. You're not my oppressor. They's my oppressors. My name is Dan.
Something wrong with you. I promise you, them drugs. You know what?
Muhammad
the drugs
Ali.
Actually work.
That's Muhammad Ali's speech, man.
Y'all can tell the drugs work, man.
My name is Dan. Keep up with me on Twitter and IG at I am Dan on Drugs. The show, all platforms at Black Law Podcast.
And you can follow me on Twitter at I Tell Legal Lies. Thank you. Deuces.